I've been adding to the uh, tabletop role-playing game collection. So I've been a little turned off on the Dungeons and Dragons. A couple of reasons. One of which is, so they've got the fifth edition, which is the current edition, although they're doing an update as of right now, and it's it's probably the best edition so far, just objectively. However, it's not really to my taste. I came up under the old rules that came up from the old miniature wargaming, and I've seen it go through a number of transfigurations over the years. It's a good system, but I'm sort of having to relearn it. And as I said, it's kind of not to my taste. I've been picking up some of the minimalist games that I think might be better, and of course I can just play the old versions if I want to. Um, but one of the versions, so I didn't play the third edition Dungeons and Dragons, but I did pick up Pathfinder First Edition. And what they did is they took the 3.5 edition Dungeons and Dragons, cleaned it up. So it's very well organized, beautifully produced. So I picked up Beginner Box, which in my mind has been one of the best deals. You really get your money's worth with there. I did with that first edition Beginner Box. Holy cow! It's got pawns, it's got maps, it's got books. I mean, it's just, and for the money, it was a fantastic deal. So I picked up the first edition Beginner Box for Pathfinder, and then I picked up, at that time they had two core rule books. Yes, yeah, and I got my puppy dog over here. So they had their rule book, one rule book, and then they had their bestiary, so they had their monster books. And so I picked those up. So I've got them, and it's a really crunchy rule set, which it kind of liked. And it's basically a spin-off of the 3.5 rules in Dungeons and Dragons, and that was a response to the fourth edition rules. A lot of people didn't care for, so that's why Paizo, stepped in with that one. Well, um, Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast, they've been getting kind of sticky with their licensing. So Paizo, who does the Pathfinder, decided to do their own thing. So they came up with their second edition, which is approximately the same complexity, same crunchiness as fifth edition D&D, but they've sort of gone off in their own direction. So there are some differences. Um, and I was sort of looking at second edition Pathfinder. But then they've come out with what they call their second edition remastered. And what it is they've cut all ties with D&D, so there's no problems with licensing whatsoever. And it's getting some good reviews. And like I said, I've got the first edition. I'm really impressed with the organization of the rule sets. I mean, they're so easy to navigate, and they're so well laid out, and they're so well thought out. And they've had time to improve on them. And then this remastered edition, with the changes they made in second edition, they've had time to clean up a few little rules that were maybe a little out of balance. And the main changes is they've just gotten rid of any terminology that might have been licensed to the old Dungeons and Dragons, or the newer Dungeons and Dragons for that matter. So the main things were just changes in terminology and a little bit of a rules cleanup. So I just jump in with both feet, and I picked up a bunch of the Pathfinder stuff. Now this first one, I got the new second edition Beginner Box, and I wasn't concerned about compatibility because I said most of the changes from second edition remaster is just terminology for certain monsters and whatnot, and some of the game mechanics. They're just getting away from anything that was used by Dungeons and Dragons. Same mechanic, different terminology. So I wasn't concerned about compatibility, so I didn't really pay any attention. So I ordered second edition Beginner Box. It was the remastered version that came in. So got my new second edition Beginner Box, and this is in fact the remastered edition. And it's not quite the deal that I got with the first edition, which was it was like half the price. This is way back, but it was like, holy cow, what a deal! I mean, you got a lot for your money, but it's still an excellent deal. I mean, you've got a complete game here. You could play this probably indefinitely. But it comes with dice, it comes with character sheets, it comes with two-dimensional pawns, bases for the pawns, maps, rule books, an adventure. I mean, it is just complete, and it's still, in my opinion, one of the best tabletop RPG deals out there. So this got my 2E remaster for the get started on that. Then I picked up the core rule books. Now they've split it into sort of the traditional three, getting away from D&D, but they split it into traditional three. So first one they've got is what they call their player core, and they had a lot of for second edition, they had a lot of additional materials that showed up in some of their add-on books and whatnot, and they've included it in these books. And again, um, improve the compatibility, balance, and so on and so forth, and then just change some of the terminology. So I've got the player core, and I gather the player core is really the only one you need to play. But then they've got the GM core for the game masters, and that's got more stuff on being a game master. And then I got their Monster Core, and they've got a whole bunch of other books out there as well. But I picked all up their second edition, but they're all the remasters, so they're all together compatible. And then I picked up one more item, and this is second edition GM screen. Now the only thing is this is not the remaster, and again I'm not overly concerned about compatibility. What I will probably do is check the tables against the core books that I got, the remaster core books, and see what differences there are. And if there are any major differences, I'll post it on it. Just be good. But again, I wasn't concerned about getting the remaster. I just kind of wanted a Pathfinder GM screen, so I've got that. So I've got the whole set. Now I will probably pass on the Paizo. What do they call it? Adventure Pass. They call them, was the quests or the campaign books that Wizards of the Coast was putting out for Dungeons and Dragons. To be honest, the Paizo stuff tends to be a little expensive for what you get, in my opinion. But I'm sure there's tons. So Paizo's Pathfinder is probably the second biggest thing out there. So there's a lot of support materials, especially, and they're very good with their gaming license. So they've got a lot of third parties producing support materials for it, which is one of the beefs everybody's been having with D&D lately. But so, and that's part of why I'm moving away from Dungeons and Dragons and just adding different stuff to the collection. So there's plenty. I'm sure there's plenty of free quests and campaigns I can download offline. There's plenty of third-party materials I can download. Or purchase or whatever. So I'm not overly concerned about that. And I used to like to make my own stuff. So if I get a chance to really get into it, really start playing it, I'll probably just start designing my own campaigns. Although, again, given time restraints or time constraints, I'm probably, if I really start playing stuff, I'll probably start leading into some of them minimalist games that I've been picking up because they're so quick to just sort of get into. One of the ones that I picked up here a little while ago is one of the OSR games. So that's a callback to some of the early Dungeons and Dragons games. A little closer to the old miniature war games, and quite a bit simpler than anything from about third edition on up. But it just a little easier to manage as far as the logistics, as far as game mastering, even playing for that matter. But now I've got my second edition remaster Pathfinder going now, so it's another addition to the collection, and another option if I really start getting into this stuff. Got my dining room table all cleared off. I've got miniatures. I've got maps. I've got all kinds of goodies. So, if I really just start taking the time to do it, I'm all set.